Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Piers Morgan versus Tommy Robinson. Another clip. I'm Tal the Traveling Clyde, your favorite Zionist prince, white colonizer. Let's take a look at this clip.
What's happening with Piers Morgan?
What's happening with Piers? I don't know, he's irrelevant, isn't he? He is, isn't he? Do you know what? He changes like the wind. He's like, what does he actually believe? Do you know what I mean?
Doesn't
he's
believe in
pro-Israel,
anything.
he's against Israel, pro-Black Lives Matter, against Black Lives Matter, pro-vaccine, against the vaccine, lockdowns, against the lockdowns. It's like, what does he even believe?
I think he just jumps on the bandwagon to get views.
He jumps on the bandwagon and get views, and I think everyone sees that. Do you know what I mean? And I'd say that Piers is if I could describe him in media terms, he's a dinosaur.
I actually watched him on the Tyson. I think he was on Mike Tyson podcast. He was sitting smoking a joint. He was actually talking all right. I think when you're in the media, I think it must fuck with your mind, because you can't just follow your heart. You can't just follow what you want instead of following the narratives. He seems to jump with the crowds.
Well, he was in my film Silenced, yeah? And what he did, when a 15-year-old boy, remember this, a school playground incident happened where one boy poured a bottle of water on another boy. He used his daytime TV platform to demand severe retribution against the racist vermin. He described a 15-year-old kid as vermin. Remember, he talks about me being irresponsible, yeah? And me not being a journalist. So this journalist, Piers Morgan, who sat at the head of the Daily Mirror newspaper at the height of the rape gang scandal in our country. Are we supposed to believe he didn't know there was a rape gang scandal in our country? He did not report on it. He hacked dead children's phones. He doctored pictures of our armed forces for torturing Iraqi prisoners, yeah, proven that he doctored them. So all these things, and yet he wants to look down and sneer down his nose upon me and my journalism. Whereas in reality, what has he actually done in journalism? Like, what is his position now? And with his lies, so he demanded severe retribution against a 15-year-old child. From his calls for severe retribution, it resulted in death threats, the family coming under attack, threats to rape the children. He still hasn't even owned that. He hasn't held his hands up and said, look, I fucked up. I got it wrong. And that's what he did. And he got it wrong to a child. Yeah. And do you know what else he done? He sat down with Andrew Tate. And the knock-on offence, when he goes on about me, he sat down with Andrew Tate and he said to Andrew Tate, your mate is encouraging violent attacks against mosques, talking about me. That had 8 million views. The next day after that, my mum and dad got a knock on the door by the police, giving them an Osmo warning for endangerment to their life. I had to fly my mum and dad to Portugal the next day after Piers Morgan's irresponsible reporting, which is what it is. Not just irresponsible, but downright lies that he's told about me. So he keeps going on about now, after having me blocked for 4 years, after the last time I spoke to him on Good Morning Britain, which was when after the Ariana Grande concert, when I tried to discuss important topics. And that, when I went into that discussion with Piers Morgan, I had every bit of dirt about his life, his sordid life, his lies. But I thought, I'm on national TV. The public need this conversation. They don't need a conversation of me against Piers Morgan.
I disagree.
They need a conversation about Islam, about the mosques, about jihad, and about rapes and grooming and what's happening to our kids. That's what we need to use this 2 or 3 minutes to talk about. So whilst he tried to come at me with attacks against my personal character, I didn't want to return those attacks. I wanted to use the opportunity to try and have discussions around Islam. And that's what I did. And Piers, that discussion hasn't aged very well for Piers, because all he done was scream at me about showing some damn respect for the Quran because I held up the Quran. I've actually watched continued conversations recently where he sits and has a discussion with Jordan Peterson. He doesn't call him an Islamophobe. He doesn't attack him as far right. He doesn't scream at him to shut his mouth when Jordan Peterson is simply having the same discussions that I had. So Piers obviously has a problem with me. I'd say it comes down to, again, my class and the fact that these journalists don't like the fact that now they're the old media. We're the new media.
Absolutely,
it doesn't
Tommy.
really matter, Piers, what you say. And I come out of jail and Piers was saying, oh, now he wants to sit down and talk to me. Why would I sit down and talk to you? I will talk to Piers Morgan, but when I finish talking to people who I see as far more relevant than him.
Tommy's going to be interviewed. He's doing like a show with a good friend of mine who's a relatively small podcaster. And I was actually shocked at my friend. And then I found out I might have the opportunity to interview him myself. I'm probably not going to go for it because I'm so busy right now, even though I'm very supportive of what Tommy's doing. But when I realized that and I connected the pieces that he'll put people like us ahead of Piers Morgan, it's actually quite remarkable. This man is true to his character, and I have so much fucking respect for him. Piers Morgan is an old fart. He's a piece of shit. He's a piece of garbage. I disagree with Tommy on one thing about this clip, about that the public needs to learn something from these interviews on national TV. Here's the thing. The public doesn't learn anything from these interviews, and Piers brings people on specifically to make money, not for knowledge, not for debate. He's an old fart. He blocked me on Twitter. Me. I'm a fucking nobody compared to all these other people he's blocked. Me. He's blocked my friend Josh, the coin guy, who's the most harmless human being ever. He does his information via historical narratives. He blocked him on Twitter, for fuck's sake. Piers Morgan's an old fart. And I think he needs to be called retarded on public TV. I think that's what needs to be done. That's what I would do if I had an interview with him. I would call him retarded. I would belittle him. And I would play nasty. I would bring up all the disgusting stuff he's done in his past to bring him down. He can't bring anybody like me on because he doesn't have any ammo on me. So he can't bring you on. Tommy Robinson is incredible with his doctrine, with his creed on telling the truth and fighting against this bullshit propaganda and the bullshit lies that have been smeared against him for the last God knows how many years. And Piers Morgan has played into that big time. He's a hypocrite, Piers Morgan. He doesn't stand for anything. And the thing is, when you don't stand for anything, it's not about having a bias. When you just don't stand for anything, you're less interesting to listen to. You're less practical. You're less of everything. There's no reason to have a conversation with you when you don't actually stand for anything. Because if you're just a sponge that's taking in a bunch of information and not really processing any of it, it's not just about being biased or neutral. You're just not anything. You've got nothing. You've got no actual opinions. Piers Morgan's a hypocrite and he's a liar. And I don't appreciate him at all. And I think that he's done a lot of damage in this conversation, like the Brits have done in the past to Israel, Palestine before. And he follows in those footsteps. He follows in the footsteps of what British colonialism did, which is add more fuel to this fire rather than help quell it in any meaningful way. And if I ever had the opportunity to call him a retard in live TV, I would take that opportunity without a shadow of a doubt. And I would do that and hopefully make you guys proud. I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you a long time. Goodbye, Klats.
If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat, or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.